everyone, and welcome back. I'm John Lincove.
I'm Mike Monticello.
And I'm Ryan Pizlakowski.
And you know, guys, we get together again, and one of the cool things is that in a day where you have all these kind of, shapeless, numeric EVs coming out that have no real history. I mean, look, we have the Mustang Mach-E associated with the Mustang, some styling things. But aside from that, everything else is an IQX, this, kind of SUV-ish blob. We've had some cars that have been redesigned for generations. And they're bringing out a new one. And the car we're going to talk about today is that in point, the Acura Integra. Acura has had this car, it came out in 85, 86 as a 3-door hatch, a 5-door hatch, and a sedan. It was updated in 1990 and it got the VTEC Yo system. I mean, VTEC Yo, everyone knows because you put that sticker on your Honda product and immediately gives you 5 horsepower. But that system actually did something. It was, it used different camshaft profiles so that you would have performance at high RPM. And when that kicked in, it did sing. I mean, the engine would rock it. But at low RPMs, you had, really, really good usage of fuel. So it was, I gave the car 2 personalities. Third generation in 94, we got some sporty ones. We got the GSR version. We got the Type R. So it was a fun, hot hatch of that era, the Volkswagen GTI, a number of competitors. And then that was it for the Integra. And the subsequent versions was a 2-door Acura, a 3-door, it's a hatchback, 3-door Acura RSX, then the ILX sedan, which was basically just a gussied up Civic, and it didn't really do much for anyone, which brings us to today's car, the 2023 Acura Integra. Without going into too many details about it, Ryan, you've driven it, Mike's driven it, but we're going to throw it to Ryan first because it's almost like the antithesis of the tight German 3 Series that you love, that's in your profile descriptions and such. But really, what do you think about this car? Because it's got some interesting features and a unique one too.
You mean the Acura Civic Si?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm sorry. So I ended up driving it. I actually drove our borrowed one last night. It's a
rented.
I'm sorry.
Rented.
Yes.
We rented it from Acura. Yes.
Last night, and I actually put quite a few miles on it. It's a Civic Si that rides a little better. It has that adaptive suspension, and it is nice that it has that. The adaptive suspension does take some of that roughness out, but there's nothing special about it sportiness wise. There's no extra horsepower as compared to the Civic Si, which. This should be a little bit more. There should be some more spunk in there. I think give you something for that name. I mean, the name is iconic. Integra. That was some of our dream cars when we were younger. We couldn't. You can't afford those. The Type R's and all those fun ones from way back in the day because they're like you said. We said before they're probably on bring a trailer for $80,000 or something. But
right.
But this is just
and you wouldn't want to drive it because it's got 5,000 miles on it, so it just goes in your garage anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. This just it's a nice car. Don't get me wrong. It's a nice car. In the manual, I actually kind of appreciate it. Ours had a 6-speed manual in it, and it's super fun to drive, but it's not like overly engaging. It's just like a nice car to drive, and it happens to come in a manual too, so that's nice. But it's shockingly similar to me to the Civic Si, and I thought that was a missed point. I mean, this could have been a little more spicy, I think.
Yeah, I like that. So you hit on the point. The point I was making, it comes with the manual, and in this segment, it's almost, gone. The entry level luxury car segment, it's hard to get a manual. I think the 3 Series,
right?
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can get it with an automatic or a manual, and also, so this one that we rented is the A spec, and I believe it's if you get the technology package or something like that, you get the adaptive dampers for the suspension, which allow you to adjust, between different settings in terms of stiffness or softness, which is something you can't do on the Honda Civic Si for sure. I know pretty sure we're getting an A spec. I don't know if we're getting the technology package with those adaptive dampers or not.
Yeah, I don't know about the spec on what they're what we're going to buy,
so.
Depending on availability. But you're right. You get a sport mode, a comfort mode, and a normal mode with the technology package. Acura makes a big point. Segment exclusive 6-speed manual transmission, which just goes to show how few auto manufacturers actually sell a car with it. When it's segment exclusive. But to your point, Ryan, and I know Monty, you made the same point in some discussions before. Yeah, 1.5 liter VTEC turbo engine, 4-cylinder turbo, 200 horsepower, 192 pounds-feet of torque. Same specs as the Civic Si. Nothing else. Monty.
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead.
I think there was a lot of excitement when the Acura Integra came out, like you said, in '86. And keep in mind, it's been based on the Civic, like it was based on the Civic back then. It had a very special engine, though, at the time. It had a very high revving double overhead cam 4-cylinder, which was, kind of advanced for the time. And of course, the VTEC that you talked about, John, came later. But just that initial engine and the price that it was at, which was pretty reasonable. That was also launching the Acura brand, Honda's luxury brand. That was part of that launch. And I remember the first one I saw, I thought it was so cool. The engine, someone was driving by on the street or something outside my high school. Yes, I am that old. And it sounded fantastic. And of course, all the Buff magazine books had great things to say about it. So the name has a lot of cachet. But yeah, I totally agree that when I saw the spec sheet, I'm like, wait, it has the exact same 200 horsepower as the Honda Civic Si. With these turbo powertrains, it's not that hard to get another 10, 20 horsepower. Right. I don't want to say it's as simple as turning up the boost, but it's almost that simple. And so you just feel like, why does the Acura not get at least, something like that, 10 more horsepower, even just for bragging points? But
can we get 5 horsepower? Can someone give me 5 horsepower?
But on the bright side, kind of all to Ryan's point, it's based on a very good car. The Honda Civic Si is a fantastic driving car. And at least we know with this A-Spec with the adaptive dampers that it cures one of the big issues with the Si, which is an overly stiff ride for the performance you get. Yes, Civic Si is one of the best handling front-wheel drive cars made today. The Integra dumbs it down a little bit, but I think in a good way. I think the reality is it's probably a better car for more people, but I wish it had a little more power, a little more zest, a little more spice, as Ryan said, from the powertrain. But I can't be too upset about it because the powertrain's really good. We liked it in the Civic Si. We like it here. That's a great crisp shifting manual transmission. The engine acts more like, just in the Civic Si, it acts more like, kind of like a Honda VTEC from the days of old. It likes to rev. A lot of turbos these days make their power down low. This one, it benefits to rev the car, and that's fun. And the handling is not as sharp as the Si, though. I think maybe you'll agree, Ryan and John. But it's not like it's mushy. It just doesn't have quite the amazing capabilities of the Civic Si. The tires are different too, so we'll have to see. Maybe Ryan, you could speak more to the tire difference between the two and how much that is affecting things. But I do think that as a car, it probably suits more people than the more harder edged Civic Si does.
That's what throws me off, I think, though. And when I go back to when you hear the name Integra, I just expected. I guess my expectation was higher of some more performance in a way, right? I mean, you said it's based on the same car, so it's not going to be wildly different. But I would like a little more power, just something because behind that name Integra. This car is a better car for more people. I think the hatchback makes wild good sense. I mean, I think that's excellent. But it just like it's very similar. It would have been. I think it was an opportunity. They could have gave it an extra 10 horsepower, and I do think it's that easy to turn up the boost a little bit. I do think it's that easy.
Inside the experience, I mean, like you mentioned, Monty, it does benefit from a lot of the positives of the Civic. I mean, but down to almost, it doesn't have the cheese grater trim going across the entire dash, but just the air vents. I mean, the Civic, this generation Civic, Honda got right. We might harp on the redesign of about a half dozen years ago that they blew, but this one is you pointed some stuff out about the front is great, the back is a little bit not as wonderful, much like the Honda
so
Civic.
It kind of, again, there are some nicer bits in the Integra versus the Si, but it also mimics some of the exact same things that the Si does, which is so it has these really nice looking suede, inserts on the front seats. And then the rear just gets, either leather or fake leather red, which not only does that look a little tacky, but you notice if you look in the car and you're like, well, these seats are clearly not the same in the front and the back. And that kind of offends you a little bit. You can get away with that with a Honda Civic Si, but I don't think you can get away with that with an Acura, which is supposed to be kind of a luxury model, right? Things like the center armrest lid. It feels kind of chintzy in the Civic Si. Well, it feels kind of chintzy here. It's covered with a different material. And again, these are fine points that I'm talking about. But as someone who has rated our fit and finish over the years, there's these kind of rough edges on the inside of that center armrest bin in the exact same spot as the Civic Si has it. So it's not like they went through it and said, oh, where can we improve every aspect of this interior or most of the aspects? They didn't do that. The front window sills, padded. Rear window sills, not padded. Luxury cars should have padding on the rear window sills. Again, I know that you might be like, well, those are weird things to point out. I'm a weird dude. Get used to it. Okay. But these are things that you think about when you think you're buying a quality car, which I think it is a quality car. But again, I would even say just do that for the differentiation between the Civic Si. But these are things that a luxury car should have anyway. That's my personal opinion. And also, I think like these front seats probably suit more people. The Civic Si's way better. Not only are they more comfortable, but the bolstering is fantastic. These are just kind of like, they're okay.
It plays in a weird category because, historically you had entry-level cars like the Audi A4 and you had the BMW 3 Series and Mercedes C-Class. So this competes against that's now the TLX realm. The Acura TLX is against those. This plays in that entry-level luxury where you can't really get affordable entry level and luxury. You can get an entry level and you can get luxury, or you can get entry level and affordable, but you can't get all three sides of the triangle. And it's the Audi A3, the Mercedes-Benz CLA 250, the BMW 228i. That's what Acura says it competes against. And yeah, there's the surface, the visible here that everything looks great, and then you drop your eyes and it's like, oh, it's cheap and it's plasticky or it's rough edges and stuff. And that kind of hurts it. Of course, this starts, at $30,000, which undercuts those by a significant amount. The Civic Si has everything with the hardcore seats and the manual transmission and the sporty engine. So then there's this one that kind of puts like a little bit of a, veneer, softer veneer on the reason for the car almost. It softens it a little bit with some stuff. Is it just better, Ryan, to get the Civic Si that has it has the same go fast bits, but it has the sportier seats, and you just don't worry about a little bit of luxury here or there?
So I think, it all comes down to the ride, because the Civic Si rides hard. I mean, that's going to will turn most people off from that car. The Integra, at least with the adaptive suspension that we drove, it rides a lot better. I'd be curious how the Integra with the non-adaptive suspension rides. If it's still better than the Civic, then I think that's a good thing. It would make sense for a lot of people. And especially, I brought it up earlier, that the hatchback is also a major turn on. I think, that style, it's just more practical. You can flip the seats down and makes more room back there. But yeah, it's just, they are so similar, but it's like, what do you want the harder ride, or do you get that, you can get the Integra and it's a little bit softer. It's not quite as sporty.
I will say that, again, this is something that maybe doesn't matter, but there is some cachet with that name, and it's still hanging around. And I totally see why they did it. I personally thought they never should have gone away from cool names like Integra and Legend and that kind of stuff. When I was in the car over the weekend, I was at a stoplight, and there was a police officer a little ways back, and he had stopped initially, doing something on his computer. They're always fiddling with something in their cars. And then I see him pulling up closer to the car, and he has his head out the window just as my green arrow turned. And you could tell he was like super interested in it, because he probably hadn't seen the name Integra in forever. Right. And I think he was kind of curious. So, I mean, I get why Acura brought it back. I think they should have never gone away from it in the first place.
Yeah, the alphanumeric stuff just hasn't worked, and it didn't really seem to make sense. And
well, who can remember what even an ILX or a TLX or a TSX or an RDX or an MDX, it's, it takes almost a car person or someone with a much better brain than mine to remember what all these things mean. Like, I still don't know. I have no idea what any Infinity model is.
Yeah, that was brutal.
I don't know what a Q60 is or a QX60 or, and I'm half kidding, but I used to understand like what an FX was and all that. And then they went to this whole Q thing. And now I'm lost, folks. So I could do some help. And I don't, and I have problems with the Infinity things.
No. We know you need help. Look, we're getting ours in. We're going to get our own in. Like we said, we're probably getting the A spec anyway. I believe those are the initial ones. And I think there's going to be a higher take rate. I mean, Acura, first credit says 65% take rate is projected for the manual transmission. So, again, another car that a lot of people want with a manual, which is a dying feature. It's expensive to certify the car, to crash test it. Not as many people know how to drive manuals. The one question. So this has that downshift rev match feature that you see in more and more vehicles. Do you think that's a giveaway to people who can't drive a stick, or do you think it's just great? It's fun just to drive around, just not have to worry about rev matching.
Yeah, no, honestly, I'm a bit indifferent with it. Personally, I don't drive with it on. I like to kick the throttle and match revs a little bit if I can, depending on if I'm just bouncing around town, not doing not driving sporty in a sporty way. I don't really care. But I think for some people that kind of a cool feature to have. And I don't think it's a major. It's not like you have to redesign the whole car to put that in there. So it's like not a bad little feature, and it's just a button you turn on and off. So,
well, yeah, it's a little more than a button. Unfortunately, that's my problem with it. I believe I don't remember if it was the Z, but some cars have had a very easy rev match button that you on the center console that you can turn on. This is a little more involved. You have to go through. I think it's the infotainment screen to turn it off. I think it's a great thing for people who aren't really adept at heel and toe downshifting, which is, as we've talked before on the show, is a way of, matching your revs to get a nice smooth downshift. It's also just really fun to do. I hate it. I can't stand it. Every time I get in one of these cars, the Civic Si and this, and I'm so, muscle memory, that when I'm braking and downshifting, so now it's getting double blipped because it's blipping and I'm blipping. It completely screws up my driving. So I had to pull off in a cul-de-sac and turn that stupid thing off. And again, I say stupid, it doesn't work for me. I hate it. I also think anything that brings more people into driving manual transmissions, I think is a good thing, but there's also something to the arts. There's nothing wrong, folks, with putting in some effort. Don't get lazy. Learn how to heel and toe downshift. It sounds cool. It is cool. It's fun to do. It just adds one more thing to your driving that you should learn how to do. Why lose that skill?
Oh, that's a note that Mike Monticello's driving school. He will teach you on your clutch how to heel and toe downshift. Remember, it's your clutch, not his clutch. Look, we're gonna have a first drive on this car coming, online on consumerreports.org. We will be buying our own to put through tests. Pretty cool that there is a manual in that segment. Again, dying breed of car with a manual transmission. But check out consumerreports.org for more on the Integra. So now this comes to the question and answer part of our show, which is always it's fueled by you guys with your text questions, with your video questions, which you send to TalkingCars@iCloud.com, and then you get on the show, and then we give you our advice, as good or as bad as it may be. No, it's always good. Our first question, our only question, comes from Viron, who's actually asking about the Acura Integra. Take it away.
Hey all, at Talking Cars. I'm looking for an interesting vehicle. I actually had a reservation on an Integra, and I'm coming from a 2010 Toyota Yaris. My only focus was I want sportier, nicer, more comfortable, and quiet as well. The Integra seemed like a good choice, but I don't know if it's a good value. And being a first model year, I am a little bit concerned. I know you guys talked about that in a previous podcast. I'm thinking about EVs now, maybe plug-ins, because I live in an apartment and don't have any charging stations on the apartment site or parking, but I do have a lot of places around me. So I wonder what suggestions you have for something. If we could save a bit of money by being a hybrid or plug-in hybrid, or I'm honestly willing to go full EV, that would be great to know. I'm just concerned about the reliability and long-term of something like Hyundai's, which seem to have good value. Thank you.
Okay, so Viron has a question. He has his deposit on the car. He's interested in it, but then he's kind of going a little bit all over the place. Right. Mike, what's your advice for him?
Well, he is a little bit all over the place, but I mean, credit. You know what? Credit to him for being open to all kinds of options. Because a lot of the time we are focused on one car, and then we put our blinders on and we don't want to see anything else. And maybe the car over here would have been a better choice. But what I want to just make clear for him is that the Integra is based on the Civic. And the current Civic has, we're predicting reliability of average. So I know he's a little worried about first model year, but remember, although the Integra, the name is new again, right? But the car is based on an existing, very much based on the existing Honda Civic Si. So it's likely that reliability won't be an issue. Of course, there's no guarantees in life, right? But, and if you look at what the Integra has, it pretty much has everything that he's asked for, right? Compared to his old Yaris, it's sportier, it's nicer, it's more comfortable, and it's more comfortable than the Honda Civic Si that we've talked about, and it's likely quieter. Although, I will say that, a quiet cabin is not typically a Honda Civic Si thing, and in this case, not really an Acura Integra thing. But but
compared to a Yaris.
Yeah, compared to his old Yaris, I think he's going to find just about everything he wants in that Integra. So I would say there's nothing wrong with sticking with that. The only other thing I might say is it might be kind of fun to keep it in the Toyota family and, coming from his Yaris, and go with something like a Prius Prime. The beauty of the Prius Prime is that it's a plug-in hybrid, right? So it bridges that gap between a regular hybrid that you never have to plug in and a full EV that always has to be plugged in. You use the Prius Prime, you plug in, you can get about 25 miles of electric range. So it's kind of like a way of dipping your foot in the full EV water. So I would say, there's certainly something to think about as well, but I wouldn't be afraid of going with what he already was originally thinking of, which was the 2023 Integra.
So I agree with Monty. I wouldn't be afraid of the Integra, and like Monty said, it kind of it lines up with what he was looking for. For him, though, I would stay away from the straight EV because of the reason that he doesn't have charging very accessible to him, and that's very important if you're going to go straight EV. I mean, you got to be able to plug that thing in easily, and maybe at first you might think, well, I can plug it in down the road. At first that's okay, but that will get old because when you realize how much you're going to be plugging it in and dealing with that. But a plug-in like the Prius Prime isn't a bad idea either. And that's a quite nice driving vehicle too. I don't know. The Integra, it's already ordered. I mean, I'm not sure how long you're going to have to wait, but I would go with that personally.
Toyota Corolla GR, anybody? Maybe keep it in the Toyota family and have a sporty car like that. But I would say, look, the cars like the Acura Integra, for whatever good or bad we feel on it being kind of just a gussied up Civic Si, you're not going to get many of those in the future. Their manual transmissions are going away. So if you're going with the manual, I would keep with that. It'll be nicer than the Yaris in every way. And like Ryan said, with the charging kind of being iffy, I would not jump into an EV at this point. Even if you have free charging at work, there's never a guarantee there. So I would stick with the Integra. We all agree? Integra?
I agree.
Do it.
All righty. All right. Three hands and thumbs up for the Integra. So that'll do it for this episode. As always, send us your questions, talkingcars@icloud.com. We love hearing from you. We want to know about your experience with the cars. And please, Viron, tell us what you go with so we know. And, it's just nice to hear. So, again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.